welcome to the family with
Co-host Catherine Brandt.
And Andy Brandt Bernard.
and Jude licking the chair. There he
Nom,
is in the
nom, nom,
background,
nom,
licking
nom.
the chair, and you can see him doing it right behind me. So there
Judith,
you
you're
go.
an obsessive compulsive doggy.
Andy, are you and Alex Gen Y?
No, you're
Yes,
millennials, aren't you?
that's the same thing.
Oh.
We're called millennials. Gen Y is the old term that they used to use.
Yeah. I just saw something that popped up on my screen. So Gen Z would be what, like 25 and younger,
Something like that, yeah.
somewhere in
Well,
there.
it's like, I don't know, maybe 10-ish to 25 because Ethan and Alex's kids are Generation Alpha.
Alpha. Oh, so they're
Yes.
starting over again.
Yep,
Yes.
starting back
There you
over.
go.
And then once we get to Generation Omega, the sun will burn out. So
There you go.
plenty of
I,
time.
I want to read you a headline. This is a national headline from the national news. 20%, 1 in 5 Gen Zers do not know how to change a light bulb.
Oh, give me a break.
That's what the head. You can see the headline right there, my dear.
Where? Manhattan?
Oh, that's gonna
Well, yeah, I
go.
mean, how many
LA?
of them are, just like renting? They,
have-
don't touch anything because they don't feel like, they're above it.
Well,
That's-
in LA, they
that's
probably
the
have
super
people
job.
for that.
How many Gen Zers does it take to change a light bulb? Sounds like a joke, but it's a legitimate question. A new survey, 1 in 5 people between the ages of 18 and 27 claimed they couldn't change a light bulb and would just hire people
Yeah.
to change their light bulbs.
There you go. Well, God, think of
Crazy.
how many people are like
Okay.
ordering McDonald's DoorDash. It's like McDonald's, it's already so
know.
easy. You just go there, the food's
Pick it up.
ready.
Yep.
It takes 45 seconds to get your food, but people are having people do that for them and drive to their house with their $5 piece of crap hamburger. It's like laziness has
Taken
no
over?
bounds.
Yeah,
Well-
I agree. I don't understand this DoorDash thing and why it's.
I've done it a couple times,
Well,
but
if you're
it
sick-
never felt worth it. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like if you're sick or if you're like insanely busy or something like that.
Yeah, or
then
you have a
sure.
sick kid and you
Yeah,
can't
do
leave the
DoorDash
house.
once, like twice a year or something like that.
Yeah.
But these people are just doing it every day, and then they're broke because DoorDash is extremely expensive, and they're like, "Oh, well, I don't have any money." It's like
Well,
maybe
you
it's because
go-
you're spending $50 getting a Dairy Queen ice cream cone delivered to you.
Well, you go into someplace like Whole Foods, and the pickers are basically shoving you out of the way.
Oh yeah,
because
they have got a schedule.
they've got 3 carts loaded with stuff
Yep.
because
Yep.
there's so many people using it. How much more is it?
A lot.
It is.
DoorDash is they have a fee, and then if you tip the driver, you're doubling it basically.
Really?
Take whatever you're gonna eat and then double the price. There's your DoorDash price.
I remember every year I would, well, I don't know. Before COVID, it wasn't that expensive to do. And then during COVID, obviously, it was very expensive because everybody got so worried about
Right.
going to the store and going out and all this kind of stuff. It's fine if the pickers get sick.
Yep.
I just whatever. But anyway, I remember every year I would cancel it, and then it started getting to be, oh, we'll give you a free 3-month trial if you do this and if you do that. And I would sometimes use it because when you're coming down here, especially during the holidays, it's kind of nice if somebody delivers the food. And you can always pay the valet
Yeah,
guy to
yep.
bring it upstairs and throw it. So, so you don't get stuck not having any food for a couple of days because of a holiday or whatever. So I would use it a few times, but it's just, you're right. It became like a subscription that you
Yep.
couldn't get out of.
Right.
And
Yep.
it's like, no, I don't like anything like that.
Well, here's the take. In a new survey, 1 in 5 people between the ages 18 and 27 claim they couldn't change a light bulb and would just hire someone else to do it because it's too dangerous to go up a ladder. So is this another sign of the times now that screwable light bulbs are being phased out for LED lamps that last 10 to 20 years, or are they just lazy?
Well, there's some, I mean, if you live in an apartment, you generally don't have a ladder.
That's
Yeah,
true.
Probably.
suppose.
I mean,
That's
why?
probably true.
Yeah, and if you've got a complicated, I've had. There's light bulb things that are part of the whole lamp.
Yeah,
You got to
can't
replace the
change
whole
them.
entire thing.
really?
Yeah, and
I didn't know that.
if you can't get up there, I can sort of see that. But in your own house, I mean, We had gigantically tall ceilings in our house in Golden Valley.
Oh God, yes.
And I had this
Yeah, you
big
have that
pole
pole.
thing. Yeah. I mean, I couldn't have reached the ones way up.
No, even
Right.
on a ladder, you wouldn't have been able to reach those.
No, I
You-
don't
Yeah,
need-
it was like a 20-foot pole. I remember it was.
Yeah, but
And
I
it had
don't.
a suction cup at the end.
I guess we didn't live there long enough to use up those light bulbs because I don't know what I would have done.
You're the one that wanted to move. That's all I have to say.
Oh, yeah. Let's go
Typical.
sit in a giant empty house that costs
That the house wasn't big.
$10,000 a month in taxes in Minnesota. No, thank
about
you.
it.
Hubs loved that pole. I remember.
Yes. 'cause
Every
it had
time
a
you took that
string.
thing, because it had a string. So for anyone listening, what you do is it's a pole with a suction cup at the end.
And it
and
also
you-
had some basket things so you could grab regular.
Yeah.
It had a bunch of.
So you
bunch of
stick it to the
things.
light bulb, and then you can unscrew the light bulb that way.
Yeah.
And then there's this string that you pull that makes the light bulb come off at the suction cup.
Right.
And for some reason, the string was like 50 feet long. It was just like
Really long.
absurdly
Oh,
long
because then you
string.
could put it so you could install a light bulb too the same way.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, so whenever Mom had that thing, she would walk around with it, and the string would drag everywhere, and Hobbs would immediately just run over and attack the string the entire time she was doing it.
Here's a comparison for
Toy
you.
in the world.
Kitty.
So it's a good thing you're Gen Y, Andy, because boomers, what they spend on things like changing light bulbs and that kind of thing around your house, they spend $300 a year, whereas Gen Zers spend $1,500 a year on getting things like light bulbs, that kind of
I
job.
don't doubt it.
Wow.
$1,500 a year.
That's what I'm
Kinda
saying. Just
sad.
get one of those poles, get a ladder, get something. I mean, yeah, you don't need a ladder if you live in an apartment, but if you're spending $1,500 a year, a ladder is what, $50? There you go. Just saved you $1,500 a year.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, to continue with this national storyline, are you sick of it? 97% of Americans are sick of something. Do you have an idea what they'd be sick? 97% of Americans are sick of something.
Superhero
So-
movies.
So you're sick of superhero movies, Andy?
there's-
There's a
so many
lot of
things.
things I'm sick of.
Yes.
Like what?
Superhero
Cord
movies.
management. Cord management is one of them. I hate cords. I hate hoses. I hate anything that you've got to drag around and trips you and falls behind something so you can't access it.
Talk
Sick
shows.
of it all.
Oh my God, she turned on me there. She turned toward me. I thought she was going to turn on me. In any case, are you sick and tired of fill in the blank? A poll of 2,000 Americans found 97% of us are sick and tired of one thing or another. The other 3% apparently feel fine about the state of the world. 14% think it's it's a lost cause, but 86% think we can still fix the issues we're sick and tired of seeing out there. Here are the top things that we are sick of in 2025. There are only 5 of them. Any guesses what they might be sick of?
Crime.
No, that's a good pick. Andy?
I mean, I had my guesses.
All right, here we go. Other things that are ranked high: healthcare system, 71%; personal struggles, feeling overworked, 70%; and not taking better care of the environment, 63%. But the top 5 issues are: 81% are sick and tired of social issues and divisiveness.
Yeah.
In other words, we just talked about this with Kristen Burt this morning. Do you really need your city on fire and then the two people on both sides of the political, situation are bitching about what they... Could you just work together while your city's on fire? Is that possible to just work together? The entire city's burning to the ground.
No, because everything is a political opportunity
It is, yep.
to
Yep.
make people like you better
Well, it's all
than
they
the other
know.
guy.
They don't know how to fix things.
No.
They just know how to complain and divide. So it's like, they're just doing
Well-
what they can do.
Well, and there's plenty of mud to sling at the leadership in Los
God.
Angeles and the state of California. Plenty of mud.
true.
I mean, but right now I agree, not really the
Now's
time,
not the time.
to fling it.
Well, the word is that was her name, Karen Bass. Even Kristen Burt brought up this morning, they're going to have to get rid of her. People are so pissed off at her, it's
Well,
unbelievable.
is
did you
she?
watch it? She's the mayor of Los Angeles.
Oh, yeah.
She, and this is a documented fact. She went to Cuba and was like I don't remember what the name of the group that she was in was like a friend of Castro.
Oh, Jesus.
She went there for meeting after meeting after meeting. She's a very radical Marxist human being. She belonged to I think,
The
I don't want to,
Venceremos Brigade.
yeah. And then they tried to bring that to the United States. I gave you that video.
Yes.
This guy was talking about her and how if we had any normal journalistic press at all in these cities,
Yep.
she would have been exposed for an incredibly left-wing extremist. And I think that would have probably turned some people off because, I mean, Cuba and in Florida here, the Cubans don't like communism.
No, they don't.
No.
They don't
do
want
not.
it. And I'm pretty sure that most people in Central America and Mexico know about Castro and communism and what it did to their country. So I think that if that was exposed, I don't think that they would get the Hispanic vote or anybody else. I mean, who wants a crazy person who's like so focused on some sort of little tiny thing that they can't, like Andy said, they can't solve anything. All they can do is promote their cause.
Okay, so I have a question for you. Catherine and I have been to Cuba. Actually, really enjoyed our trip to Cuba. I thought the meeting all the Cuban people could not be nicer. They work their ass off. You better like corn and chicken because that's what you're going to have to eat about 6 times a day or a
They
week.
don't have
or
any
whatever.
beef. There's no
They
beef.
have no
there.
beef or anything like that. So it's either fish or chicken, and then the corn is the side dish. But yeah, Cuba I thought was absolutely beautiful, very, very nice people. The rest of it, if she's so, fired up on Castro, why didn't she move to Cuba?
Well, I'm sure you noticed when we went to Cuba that the houses are falling in.
They're literally falling over.
And the guy that was our tour guide, he was telling us that, okay, so let's say I'm assigned a job of whatever, street sweeper. And I mean, the pharmacist there was making like $30 a year.
A year, yes.
A year.
A year.
Because your housing is owned by the state. It's crumbling. You will
Yep.
always get free housing. You might live in a place that has no windows or no heat most of the time.
Or a wall.
And you have to share it with a zillion people. And nobody wants to fix anything because they don't have any money. There's no Home Depot down there.
Nope.
There's no way to buy supplies to fix something. So when it falls in, they just, you go over here now. And they just let the place stay in disrepair.
Yep.
They don't care about anything. So the street sweeper that might want to earn a little extra money for, whatever, a birthday present once in a while, he wants to make a little toy. He wants to make a little train and sell them to the tourists. He has to get a permit, not only to sell the train, he has to get a permit to go to the junkyard, to the landfill, to pick little scraps of wood to make his toy. Mm-hmm. This is what they want for people. That's what communism is. Everybody's
no question.
poor,
Absolutely. Everybody's poor.
except for the friends of the politicians and the friends of the military.
And they
the
live in
military
mansions.
and the politicians. They have everything they need.
And don't forget the comedians.
Yeah, most Cubans have never even tasted beef.
No, they don't know what it even. Look, when you drive by it, you can sure tell where the Castros live.
Yeah.
Because it's a walled-in, I don't know how many acre facility. It's a palace.
Absolutely.
But everybody else lives in, falling down.
Basically abject poverty.
Abject poverty. That's
Yeah,
exactly
they
right.
They really do.
Kostaki Kalmopoulos joined us now, but one of my favorites, Kath and I were going to go to the Tropicana, which if you ever do go to Havana, you've got to go to the Tropicana and watch those women. They are amazing. They got palm trees on their heads and their little
The outfits are like,
They're amazing.
you can see where Vegas showgirls got all of their inspiration.
So Catherine and I call a taxi to take a taxi over to the Tropicana. The taxi pulls up a 1955 Oldsmobile.
Convertible.
It's like, whoa.
And they've all been, their
Redone, yeah.
engines have been redone to take diesel fuel because
Yep.
they don't really have very much gasoline there.
Oh, diesel is less refined, so it's easier to make.
Yeah. Yeah, so they have diesel fuel there, which of course, you're driving around in the convertible and all these diesel things are just flying in your face and getting in your eye. And you're like, this is so fun.
It was something else. We loved it. We loved Cuba, but again, we stayed at a nice hotel. That's the big difference. And the people on the street, there was one guy that was a prick, and I had to kind of mention to him, go over there. But everybody else could not have been nicer.
No, they were very nice.
Very nice people. So I mean, if that's what the mayor of Los Angeles likes so much,
Well,
then move there. You should move
Kostaki.
to Cuba.
You're in LA. What are you doing with? How do you feel about all this garbage?
Yeah, I mean, I've been in and out. I went on the road this weekend and came back. Last week we had a couple of beats of sweating it out. I now have a Fire app on my phone, which I've never had
good.
before.
Fire app.
That's good.
Yeah, I mean, nothing's a 0% chance, but we're in good shape. We're in the heart of
That's
Hollywood,
good.
away from some of the
That's
tough
good.
stuff.
Okay.
The air quality's been bad. I have empathy for the people around me. I have a couple of friends who lost their homes, and
I
that's
know.
too bad.
yeah,
It's
some things are
terrible.
tough. Pete Lee, you
Really
know Pete Lee.
Oh, I know Pete Lee really well.
Pete Lee was in New York City running his set for the Tonight Show when his house burned to the ground in L.A.
Oh, oh, Pete's such a nice guy.
Yeah, and he was on the show, and he was earnest about what was happening, and talked to Jimmy about it all, and told the story about how Jimmy made his career by discovering him in New York. And I mean, he's I saw some of his posts. He was like, I might cry tonight. Well, good luck.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
some
Billy
of that
Crystal's
stuff.
house burned up.
Yeah, Billy
Is that
Crystal's
true,
did.
or are those
Yep.
just rumors that are coming around?
No, it did.
Oh, I don't
No.
know. I mean, that is that most of the area where the fires were, some of it's really, really nice, fancy homes, and they're
Right.
kind of near LA. So I'm sure
Right.
a sea of characters we know from television and movies lived there and lost everything.
Just awful.
That is
I saw-
amazing.
I saw the James, what's his name?
James Woods.
James Woods. I saw James Woods describing the story of,
Yep.
they were checking in on an elderly neighbor. It turns out he was there, and they alerted the firefighters, and they saved his life. The person who was supposed to be there caring for him couldn't make it in all the chaos, and somehow that guy fell through the cracks, and they sort of caught it. And
Oh,
there's all these stories like that. It's crazy.
yeah.
The good news, if there is any, is that these fires are a little bit like a hurricane. They're coming, and it's mostly a when do you leave and property issue,
Right. Right.
but man, the property is just devastating. I
It
mean,
is.
it's so many people, it's so many millions of dollars just vanished.
Well, and all of those houses in Malibu that were right there on the ocean, which they would never get a permit to build those now, are they ever? They probably won't let them rebuild. I'm guessing.
I don't know. I imagine there'll be a pretty strong ethic to allow people to do what was there prior, but good question. I don't know.
Yeah.
No question about it. This is one thing I do love. I was running down a list of all the things that people are sick to death of: violence and crime, economic issues, politics and government. The number one thing that people in America are sick to death of, 86% of Americans are sick of biased reporting on the news. Couldn't agree more.
I know, but they won't stop. Everybody says it. Everybody says, stop doing that. And they're like, nope, we're going to do it more.
Well, people want it. Although,
don't get it.
do they though anymore?
Does
Yeah.
what anymore?
Do people watch anymore?
Well,
The
some
news
people
is
do.
yeah, not as big as anywhere near as big as it used to be, because I get sick to death of hearing. I mean, you tune from one channel to the next one, whether it's, let's say you're going from CNN to Fox. Am I still on the same planet, or I mean, you wouldn't even think we're in the same country?
Well, I have a brother that was been kind of homebound for a long time, and he sits there and watches MSNBC and
Yeah.
rants and raves
He does,
and tears his hair out about all of the things that they say are going on, and it's just like, my God, how can you live like this?
Yeah, well, it's exciting. It's if you're desperate for excitement, that's a form of excitement.
Watch old episodes of Gunsmoke or something. Do something else with your time. This
Now
is,
there's excitement.
It is
it's
excitement.
got something better than watching
Well-
MSNBC. Oh my God.
I went to my first grade teacher. She was a nun at St. Joseph's, and I said, when I get bored or get a little afraid or whatever, what should I do? And she said, Tom, when you get a little older, it'll be a lot easier because you can turn to Kostaki for humor. She told me that in first grade. I'll never forget it. I'll never forget she told me that in first grade.
Oh, we're
Doc, you haven't been born yet.
segueing into football, are we?
Nostradamus. Yeah.
Nostradamus. There
Did you hear about the story about the Packers fan in Philly?
I can't believe that happened.
No.
That-
What happened?
Oh, it was all over social media. There was this woman who was in Philadelphia for an Eagles game, and she's got her Packers fan stuff on, and this Phillies fan starts just ripping on her, calling her a effing stupid C. Like,
yes.
I mean, like really bad, just like
Really
attacking her. I think he was finally ejected from the game.
He's never allowed
But-
back in the stadium, I know
Well,
that.
everybody was like, "Who is this guy? We need to find out who he is." Yeah, and the Eagles stepped up and they banned him from the stadium, and the Packers gave the woman a ton of fan gear,
Good.
and I think she might get some free tickets for whatever for a while. But I mean, the guy's horrid, right?
Terrible.
He should, and everybody's like, he should lose his job. This is where he works. I'm like, I don't know about the losing the job thing. Maybe definitely anger management, AA, whatever his problem is. But people losing their jobs.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
he
he's
referred to it, Catherine.
I know he's a horrible, horrible person. But him being unemployed after all of
let's just
this
make
isn't
him
going to help.
resentful. Yeah.
Yeah, who knows what this guy might do if he's pushed even harder? You know what I mean?
Let's make sure he has nothing to lose. That'll
Yeah,
all.
I just don't think that's the answer. I mean, this guy's a nut job, clearly. He needs help, I think, more than probably anything. I don't know. Maybe I am being too nice to him.
How do you think that would be today if it were you and me in there and the guy referred to you as see you next Tuesday? How do you think he'd be doing today, Catherine?
Well, like I said, I need to respect somebody to be worried about what they think about me.
Yeah.
If
Well,
it's
that's a good point.
drunk jackass in the stadium, I'm not going to really put that much into it. But I mean, and with social media, most of the time people would, somebody would just punch him and they would eject him, and that would be
Yeah.
the end of it. But
Yeah.
like I said, now it's we got to cancel them and all this stuff, and I don't know. I just.
Those are the two extremes in fan bases, right?
Yes.
Wisconsin's got such a reputation for being nice and welcoming and kind and pleasant and laid back. And then
Right.
the Eagles had a jail.
well, Philadelphia
Had a
in general.
jail in the stadium for years. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a jail in the stadium. I love that about Philadelphia. I love Philadelphia. It's a great town, great food. Most of the people, if you can handle that edge they have, I love them. But
Right.
this guy was he had
it's
like a
horrible.
gray-haired, severely overweight little prick.
Right.
He just had to push his opinion on a woman, referring to her again.
I know.
See you next Tuesday. It's like you actually just said that on camera.
Right.
He was being videoed, and he knew he was. He did it anyway.
Right.
I don't get
Yeah. Yeah, my brother and I went to a Niners game a couple years ago, and everyone, I mean, we're all wearing our Falcons gear and running around at the pregame and everything. Everyone
Sure.
was so nice and welcoming and cool and chill and talking football, and we ended up sitting behind the biggest a-hole I've ever seen
There you go.
in a stadium. To the point his friends were embarrassed and trying to get him to shut up. He was just like a miserable human being.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so Andreas and I just moved. We just went to somewhere else to be. We were there for a while, and I was kind of giving it back to him. My brother hated that too, so
Yeah.
we're like, okay, let's just go somewhere else. We didn't come here to be miserable.
Kostaki in a fist fight.
Oh yeah, no one wants to see that.
There
That
are
is
a lot
a
of
disaster for
a lot
everyone.
of
that's the
great
pro-
Greek fighters.
Well, that's the
Mostly
problem with
me.
giving it back. You never know if they're going
That's
to
right.
dive over,
No,
go
that
crazy.
was my brother's. Yeah, I mean, I was just making fun of him. I just thought I'm not going to let him say horrible things and not at least make him the butt of the joke.
Right.
As a
Sure.
comedian, that's my point of view.
Yeah.
Like
It's
you're
like a
gonna-
heckler.
You want to have a little verbal back and forth? You're going to lose. I'm a professional comedian.
There you go.
But yeah, he could have turned around and beat me up at any point. It is kind of
that-
amazing. 30 years into stand-up comedy, I've never been beaten up. It seems like it would happen eventually, right? Somebody,
a
some
normal thing?
boyfriend, some.
Is that
No, but it happens. It happens once in a
okay.
while.
Does it? Oh.
Yeah. Well, hey,
Well, there are
Chris Rock
people that
got punched
charge
in
the
face
stage.
in the
There
middle
are
of
people
the
that literally
Academy
charge
Awards.
the stage. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, look at the Academy Awards. You're right.
How did that go?
Right. Yeah. I mean, and you're in a club, you're in some little seedy place with 42 people in it. I mean, that happens a lot with comics, and they're all locals and they know each other. And you get into a back and forth with someone who's a regular. It seems like you'd be beaten up sometime eventually.
Well, that's nice to hear. That's
The
great.
closest I ever got, one time I was doing a joke about the Klan in Pensacola. This was years ago. And there was a
God.
guy in the audience who was in the Klan.
Oh, God.
Yeah, and we went back and forth a little bit, and there was this sort of steely moment that stayed with me all these years. At one point, I just looked at him. We were just looking into each other's eyes, and I go, "We just have to wait for people like you to die, right?" And and he nodded, like he agreed with this premise of like, well, that's really the only solution here. And that night, I hung around in the kitchen a little extra after.
Sure.
I mean,
Sure.
I'm gonna spend some time with the Mexicans and wait for this guy to go.
Hey, you cooks have a lot of knives, right?
That's right, exactly. I get a knife from the chef.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not one of those edgy, like go after you kind of guys. I'm trying to be affable the whole way through, but
Sure.
you do occasionally have tense exchanges with drunks. Mostly it's someone who's wildly drunk, and even if they
Yeah.
mean well, sometimes they're out of hand, so that's more the issue. But you do have some of this macho, like don't look at my girlfriend. You have some of those kind of
Oh,
guys
God.
too. So
I worked
there's
for
a
the House
few
of Comedy
hurdles.
for a while, and the worst was definitely the people who think they're part of the show.
Oh,
Like-
God.
Their BAC is like, just high enough that they're coherent and everything. But
Right.
so they'll like make a comment, and then the comic will like laugh or something like that. And that encourages these people. So for the rest of the set, they're constantly making comments. That's the worst I ever saw.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just annoying. It's like you're kind of wrecking the flow. Just stop talking.
Right.
I remember
And in a good
Louis-
club, they'll handle that. They'll get people.
Yeah,
out of there,
we were
know.
told. Yeah, after a few times, go get
Like-
the
Like
biggest
say
guy
Acme,
here.
March
Yeah.
5th through 8th, 2025.
Really? That's
Yeah.
that's a good time?
That'll be a great time. The biggest name in comedy will be there. Don't miss it.
Step up security.
Yeah, that's right.
The biggest name in comedy. They have the initials like CE or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh,
good.
that's
You
what
gotta
I
check them
thought.
out.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess, I didn't know what you're talking about.
Technically,
But
his initials
sometimes
are
you're not-
Kappa Epsilon, but
But sometimes
Yeah,
you're
there you
not
go.
working good clubs that will have your back. In fact,
Right.
the old paradigm, I don't work in these kind of places much anymore, but the paradigm of you go do a one-nighter in like some little local bar somewhere. You'd have comedy on Thursdays or whatever. Especially if the comedy's not been there for a long time, the local bartender has no allegiance to the comedian at all. And Tommy comes in here 3 days a week. And if Tommy starts screaming at the comic and has
Sure.
the bartender is inclined to back Tommy, not the comic. Because Tommy's coming back tomorrow and you'll never see
And
me
tipping.
again. Right. So sometimes there's a construct that's terrible for the comic. But for the most part, again, these are the outliers. For the most part, people are great. And they come to laugh and
Good.
they're into
Good.
it and they're supportive. And even if they don't like something for a little while, they keep their mouths shut and wait for the next thing. And, they're kind and they're generous. For the most part, comedy crowds are great.
Are comedy
you
clubs
never
still
know.
doing well, Kostaki?
It's all over the map. I think some of them
Is
are
it?
still
Yeah.
digging out of the hole from COVID. And
Right.
some of the comics are. That was certainly I'll be delaying my retirement a little bit. That's for sure.
Yes, exactly.
But yeah, I mean, some of the clubs are doing well, and I think there's a little bit of sentiment amongst the industry that we're having sort of a mini second boom of comedy now.
Good.
Unfortunately, I
everybody
think
needs
that's I think that's mostly the really big shots. I mean, they're talking about the Matt Rifes and the Nate Bargatze's right now. But I think some of that trickles down to the regular clubs and the workaday comics, and I think we're having a little bit of a resurgence.
Good.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, because we were talking about that yesterday a little bit on the other show. The fact that, and I've been around comedians my whole life, but from the time I was in a band at 16 till today, and all the rest of it. The biggest comedians right now, and God bless them, it's a different world. I understand it, and all the rest of it, with Gen Z and Gen X and Gen Y and all the rest of it. I don't find these huge comedians to be that funny anymore. They're okay, but you know what I mean? Does that make sense to you at all?
Well, there's so many different kinds of comedy, which I guess is the beauty of it. You find your own slice. But yeah, I feel like, Tom, I spent the first 20, 25 years of my career like always rooting for the other comics, always.
Mm-hmm.
And now once in a while, after all these years, someone will get a big break and I'm like, that's the guy you picked.
Yeah, there you go.
So I do have a little bit of that creeping in, but and there's some comics that I think aren't particularly great who are giant stars, but
It's true. I agree with you.
For the most part, it's pretty merit based. It might not be your cup of tea, and I'm surprised by some of the things that are gigantically successful, and of course I have the opposite where I'm like, what does Ted Alexandro got to do to get noticed by America? Nick Griffin. I could list 10 guys that no one's ever heard of. And then there are other guys that you rooted for the whole run, and now they're doing great. Chad Daniels being one of them, right?
Chad's a good guy.
Your backyard. He's really crushing it right now. He's always been good.
Glad to hear it.
Pete Lee's doing well, except for his house disappearing.
Except for his house burning down. Pete's another great guy. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of these guys who are good dudes and good comics, and women too. I don't mean to say dudes all the time. Most of us are
question.
dudes, but
No question. Well, I'll give you an example of that. I grew up with Joan Rivers, Don Rickles, and Richard Pryor. It's going to be pretty tough to top that trio. I mean, I don't know.
That's a good right.
That's tough, man.
Yeah. And there's the good. I think the good thing is there's so many different kinds of comedy. There's the Dave Chappelle slice of pie, and there's Nate Bargatze, and there's some very good Latino comics, and there's clean guys, and there's edgy guys, and there's dirty guys, and there's a full range out there. And with social media, you can find what you like. There's edgy guys, and there's one-liner guys, there's storyteller characters.
Right.
Yeah, the good news is it's small d democratic now. You don't have to wait for the Tonight Show guy to pick you. You can build your own army online.
Right.
Yeah.
The bad news is there's nothing that you can do where you're famous the next day. That's over. That used to be the case.
That used to be the case. You're right. Absolutely. Ed Sullivan, The Tonight Show, whatever. It was a whole different
You would literally
world
be unknown, and the next day your life has changed. There's no exposure that does that anymore. But you don't have to wait in line. You can build it yourself.
Well, the problem I have is the three people I just mentioned are all dead, so that's not a good sign. I mean, that's not good necessarily.
Well, what's your taste? What do you like? If you're picking, what do you like?
I like people like Richard Pryor was very honest about the world and how it was run and how things happened.
Right.
Never whined about it, was very funny about it. Don Rickles insulted the hell out of everyone, but I actually made him tear up one time.
Oh, yeah.
I did. I made him he almost started crying. He did tear up, and he almost started crying because I didn't go over the top kissing ass or anything. I just told him, I said, Don, the one time I got a chance to meet him, sit down and talk to him, I just talked to him about how he influenced my life and the kind of comedy that I loved. And his conversations with Johnny Carson were some of the... And let's not forget Rodney Dangerfield. He's another one.
Oh, yeah. Oh, great comics.
These great comics, but it meant so much to Don Rickles that somebody said something like that to him that he literally teared up.
Oh yeah, he's a softie. It's funny. I met him
Yep, he
briefly
was.
after a show. My opening act was kind of a family friend of his, and
Oh,
I
okay.
was in Atlantic City working like the little club, and he was down the hall in the big theater. And actually, I was on stage headlining, and I yelled at the audience. I was like, "What are you doing in here? Don Rickles is like 100 yards that way."
I like
And
that.
we finished our show and ran down and watched like the second half of Don, and then hung out with him a little after. He was great. And he was ancient, and he was sharp as hell. It was amazing.
No,
Yeah, he's
all
a
the
good
great lines from all of some of the great stories told about people running into the giants of comedy and the things that the giants of comedy would say to
one. Oh
them.
yeah,
I
my
just
favorite
love-
my favorite story that he told it more than once, of course, but was the story about he used to travel around with Sinatra, and he was having
Yep.
dinner with a woman, and he got Frank to come. He asked Frank, he goes, "Hey, I'm with the girl. Would you just come by and say hi? It'd really help me out." And they're having Don's having dinner with the woman, and Frank comes by and says, "Hey, Don, it's really good to see you." And Don
Yes,
goes, "Frank, can't you see I'm with people?"
Get lost. Basically, he's telling them it's just wonderful. I mean, now that's funny. Well, you've heard the Jeff Cesario story about Rodney Dangerfield, haven't you?
No, tell me. I love.
Oh,
Rodney
you've never
Dangerfield.
heard it?
And,
God,
and
I
Jeff.
love
I
this
love
story.
Jeff too.
Oh, Jeff's a great guy. Exactly. Got a couple of friends I don't like, but other than that, moving forward, walking down the street, it was Seinfeld and Cesario are walking down the street in Los Angeles, and they get to the comedy club, and Rodney's coming off stage and getting into his car. There's a guy holding the door for Rodney to come out and get in the car because he was such a big name, he'd have to leave immediately. Otherwise, the people would surround him and all the rest of it. So he's coming out, and Seinfeld says, "Rodney, I'd like to introduce you to a friend of mine, great new comedian, really great writer, very, very funny man, Rodney Dangerfield. I want you to meet Jeff Cesario." There's a pause, and he goes, "Cesario, huh? Italian, huh? Stick to the tumbling." You should be an acrobat. Oh, okay. Now that's funny. You know,
Yeah,
the greatest.
I can't believe I never met. I've met Cesario, I've met Seinfeld. I never met. I never met him. I wish I had. He was a gem, man.
He was
Rodney
indeed.
was great.
Remember when his wife Joan used to come on the show? After he died, she'd come on the show because she would find jokes in his old suits. So she'd come on my show or the family show and read the jokes that she found in his pocket after he died. You guys remember that when she'd do that?
Yeah, Joan.
Joan, yeah. She'd read. Here's one here, Tom. It's like, oh yeah, is that what you think? She'd try to read them, try to do a Rodney. It's like, no, that's not a Rodney delivery, but good try though. So that's good. That's one thing about being in this business, Kostaki, about whether it's on your end or my end or whatever. It's such a spectacular life, don't you think?
Yeah, I do. I think that's a great way to say that. But even if it's like cold pizza. Even when it sucks, it's pretty good. Like
Absolutely.
it's like I never have to wake up and go, shit, I got to go to work.
Right.
The value of that in a person's life, you just can't put a price tag on that. To look forward to the things and to be in a room full of people laughing and to be hanging around creative, funny, smart, interesting people. It's a gift. It's great.
Well, to be fair, though, when you wake up, you don't have to go to work for like 12 hours. So
Good point.
you got a while.
Stupid morning radio is the only thing that ruined my life.
Stupid morning radio, dummies.
If you guys had just gotten together at the beginning, Tom, and decided we're going to talk in the afternoon and play music in the morning, if you had just
Believe
switched
me,
it, I would have the
know.
perfect life.
I know.
Then I could
know
roll
exactly
out of
what you're
bed
talking
like he's saying, and I'd go do Bob and Tom at dinner time, and then go tell some jokes at night. That's the life right there.
I understand that 100%. I got no problem with that whatsoever. But, I can't really say much about it, but I might be returning. I'm going to keep this show, obviously, because I always do this show. But there's a great possibility I might be returning to morning radio as well.
Is that right?
I'm thinking about it,
God
yeah.
help us all.
God help us all. That's all I have to say to you.
Keep
But
dragging me back in. That's
Yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah, just when you thought it was safe.
Radio's the only industry where if you really crush it, they give you the worst hours.
Yeah.
that's true. That's very, very true.
That is true.
But I mean,
You're
radio's a
so
situation
good at
now.
this, sir. Get up at 4 a.m. All right.
Yes.
Right.
No amount of money is worth it.
Oh, here we go. There's a guy that grew up on the money, but that's not
That's
worth
right.
it.
Yeah.
I'm going to join. I'm going to become a monk, take a vow of poverty. 'Cause I
Oh,
don't have to wake up
okay.
at 4:00 in the morning.
Well, I don't think you're going to have to worry about it because we're always going to do this show, so it's not a problem.
I'll become a night monk. They have night monks, night shift monks.
I don't know.
You wake up at
Yeah.
noon and do your monk duties
Probably.
until like 6:00 in the morning or
Oh,
whatever.
sure. Yeah. They have night radio too. It pays $1.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, night
great.
radio's not a big payer. That is very, very true. There's no question about that. But I don't know. It'd be kind of nice to return to radio for. I've always loved doing. I've been doing it for 54 years. So I suppose
Yeah.
maybe.
Wait, how
that's
long
why
have
I
you
just-
not been doing radio?
2 years.
Okay.
Yeah, not long.
Yeah, it's been 2 years, and I just, I've been very, very lucky in the situation. But look, that had nothing to do with radio. It had to do with politics.
Right.
Politics has overwhelmed everything, and if they think you're something or are told you're something, they will believe it and will not work with you.
Yeah, that's the corporate attitude right now.
It's just so stupid. It's not even true, but maybe you want to believe that. I don't get it.
That sucks.
Well, let me put it this way. I'm very, very happy that I'm not doing a morning show about the Vikings today. I will be very honest with you about that. I'm going to be very honest with you.
The Vikings.
That's a good segue.
How can they shit the bed as hard as they do? I don't get it.
It's and they had a great season. It's so
man.
Vikings of them.
It
to
is
have
very Viking.
to have a great season, to fill the state full of hope, and then poof,
Yep.
first chance, goodbye.
Why me?
I know. I hear you. I hear you, brother.
I hear you, brother. But
Yeah,
honestly,
the national news is all, or the national news, not the national news, that social media posts all over from the country are like, those poor bastards in Minnesota, they never ever get to enjoy a win.
never.
All
really
of their
is.
teams
Yeah.
suck. How can they do it? They've got every single franchise and they never win anything.
True.
I'm like, oh, thanks.
I had a buddy of mine. As long as we're commiserating, I had a buddy of mine yesterday. He went through, and there was some debate about. Apparently, the Atlanta Falcons are the only American franchise to never have a championship at any level, at any point, even
Really?
pre Super Bowl era, like it, because they're newish. They started in
Right,
'66.
Mhm.
So yeah, it depends on how you define it. But we're the only one who's never won anything ever, never, ever. So yay, team.
But let me put it this way. I was born and raised in Minnesota. We still live in Minnesota. I love Minnesota. Never won a hockey championship at a professional level. Never.
Right.
How is it possible that you've never won the Stanley Cup?
Your tangent
How?
to Canada. You should. I mean, just that alone.
Exactly. It's like, what?
Should have a contact high at least.
Well, you would think. Absolutely. I don't know. It's tough.
Get a few big boys with French names skating down from somewhere to help you do something. Yeah, right.
Oh, Louis Nanny came down from Canada and took it over. As a matter of fact, Louis is probably going to call us and then go out to dinner one of these nights
Yeah.
because they're coming down the pipe. That'd be good. But yeah, I mean, professional basketball in Minnesota was terrific. And then I turned 5 years old. It's like, God. That team has not won anything since, I believe, 1958 or something. Andy, would you look and see the last time the Minnesota it was the Minneapolis Lakers.
Oh wow.
The last time they won the NBA title. The Minneapolis Lakers, it had to be in the late 50s, I would guess.
Let's see. 1960 is when they stopped being here, so
Right.
anything before that wouldn't count.
No, it's before that when they won the championships.
Looks like, well, ever since they moved, they became the LA Lakers. They won a bunch of them, but
Right.
before that would have been 1954. It looks like.
Wow.
Okay.
So yeah, they were they didn't win one for 6 years, then they moved, but then they didn't win one for another 12 years. So hey,
So I was 2 years old the last time that we won an NBA title in the state of Minnesota.
the Timberwolves never got
And
it.
the Vikings
Not even
went to the
close.
Super Bowl a few times, but they were the Bills
Yep.
before it was the Bills.
They were the Bills before it was the Bills. You're
Aren't
right.
the Vikings like number one for Super Bowl appearances or something like that?
Look, I'd been there 4 times. I know that.
Yeah, those
And never
the
won,
early-
of
Or
course.
Super Bowl
early
losses,
days.
I guess that would be.
Well,
4
the Bill-
Super Bowl losses, yeah.
The Bills famously did that same thing in the 90s. In fact, I think
Yep.
it was back to back to back to back.
God.
Vikings are tied for second with the Bills
With
for
the Bills.
losses at the Super Bowl.
Who's first?
Patriots, because they just bend so many times.
Oh, that's true. They're always in the Super Bowl.
Oh,
Patriots
wow.
and the Broncos have both had 5 losses at the Super Bowl.
Wow, that's a fun stat. I would have never pulled that.
No.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the
agree.
Patriots are in every Super Bowl, so
They
statistically,
Yeah,
were.
right.
But Tom
Yeah.
Brady, they were a Minnesota
That's
boy.
over though. They just had to fire. They just fired their
Yeah.
coach. That team's going to
Right.
be in the basement longer than that lady from Silence of the Lambs. They're going to be for a while.
That's a really nice reference. Jesus. That's really sweet of you.
Send the lotion down to the Patriots.
Put the lotion in the it puts the lotion in the basket. It's like, oh my God.
That's right.
Oh God.
So we had the first round of the playoffs, or as the Jaguars call it, the Super Bowl. You know,
Sure.
Yeah. There's a bunch of these teams that are struggling, or as the Titans call it, vacation. Time to go to Cabo. 4 out of the 5 games were not close at all this weekend, right? They were like Aaron Rodgers family reunion. They were not close.
Oh, that's a cold shot,
Yeah.
right? It's true, but it's cold.
It's cold.
Hey, his own family hates his guts.
Yeah.
Isn't that terrible?
And vice versa. I think it's mutual.
Oh, he hates them. There's no question about it. His own family.
Yep. Justin Herbert had 3 interceptions. This to me is the amazing stat of the weekend. He had 3 interceptions all season. He had 4 in this game.
Really?
Yeah. Chernobyl scientists were like, "Sheesh, that's a meltdown. That's
You work hard on that one.
yeah."
Okay.
Herbert collapsed when it really matters. So the Democrats have reached out to see if he's interested in running for office.
God, there's this big battle again between the Democrats and the Republicans. Like, would you both just calm down
Again,
Yeah.
again?
they used to
Forever.
get into fist fights on the floor.
Oh,
Always.
absolutely.
It's been a thing for quite a while.
Yep.
Why don't we go back to that?
Fist fights.
Fisticuffs. Settle it with fisticuffs.
I like
Fist-
Get
At
rid of
least
the filibuster. Add in
it.
fisticuffs.
Bust Phillip.
Yeah,
There you
if you want to block a bill, you have to block some punches as well.
Oh yeah. In the old days, you just read phone books to block civil rights
I know,
legislation.
It's insane.
Oh,
that
that's
allowed.
cold. That is cold right there.
Tom
True,
Thurman did that. That's a real thing that happened.
Yeah, because you
Yep.
didn't have to say anything in particular. You just
Right.
you had to keep talking. So you would just read and read and read, and they still basically do that. They just gas on for hours and hours. It's like, geez, I think it'd be much more interesting if we had to like a gladiator kind of situation. Because then we elect people who are in good shape. You know, you have to be quick-witted in order to fight. That sort of thing.
Oh yeah. That's one sneaky way to push out the old way guys.
There you go. Can you imagine Biden or Trump in a fight? It would not go well. That'd be, that'd be an MTV celebrity death match kind of situation.
Can you imagine those two candy asses in a fist fight?
Well, they'd have heart attacks before it came to blows, I think.
Well, that's probably
Yeah.
true. Yeah.
The blood pressure gets a little too high and got to sit down.
It probably is true, but things are wrapping up in about a minute or two here. But I got to tell you something, Kostaki. You'll love this.
All right.
So every year I send an envelope to Kostaki. Won't even say what's in the envelope, but I send him an envelope every
Lock
year.
of your hair, isn't it?
Anthrax.
Yes, it's a lock of my hair. That's exactly what it is. No question about it. But the great thing about it is I just popped something in the mail for you a couple of days ago. No, I'm sorry, it was yesterday. So, you'll see it this week.
Oh, good.
But the person looks at it and goes, "Are you sure you spelled that name right?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, yes,
Yeah.
I am. They thought that maybe a 20-letter last name was too long.
Yeah. It is a little much. It's
Well, it's got some size to it. There's no question about it.
that's what
No
she
doubt
said.
about it. What is it, 13 letters, isn't it? I
guy.
think it's like 13 letters your name is, isn't it?
Come on, Catherine. I haven't had one boyish joke.
Yeah.
Hold on a second.
It's been very G-rated today.
It really has. That's true.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. You're right.
It is 13 letters in Economopolis.
Yep. And I got two middle names too. That's ridiculous.
Oh, I never heard about that.
Oh yeah. Well, Konstantinos is the legal
Konstantinos,
first name.
yeah.
Tinos Economopolis.
And then I got Vasilis from Dad, of course, for the middle.
Yeah,
And then I was born on December 25th, so I had to throw in a Christos. as a
Christos,
bonus.
yep, of course.
You were born on Christmas Day?
Yes, sir.
What a gift to the world.
Brought me home in a
My
stocking.
friend Joyce.
Santa
My mom
delivers
still
Kostaki.
My mom still has that stocking. She puts them on the mantle.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, very
Yeah.
sweet. All right. Any closing words, sir?
No, it's great to talk to you guys. Now that your team's out of it, you can just relax and enjoy football. There's 7 more games. We got 4 this weekend, and then 2, then 1.
All I have to say is Catherine and I went to bed at halftime. So there you go. You could tell they got no chance of winning this game.
Yeah,
Would
I
they end up
watched some
scoring
of that.
9 points?
Yeah, it was ugly.
It was Vikings versus what? I don't even
Oh, you
know.
mean the game last night?
Yeah, who was it?
It was the Rams.
Rams.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the LA Rams.
Yeah,
dislocated
9 to 27.
27-9.
Not good.
Kostaki, I don't think I can be a Viking fan anymore. I think this had finally done it. It's pushed me over the edge. I don't know if I can watch football anymore.
You just have to. I have a Bengals fan friend who has the same problem. I'm like,
Sure.
you have to have other football things going on. You got to get into a confidence
Okay.
pool with your buddies. You got to get in a fantasy league. You got to have do a survivor pool. You got to have a football thing that's not the Vikings or the
Right.
Bengals or the Falcons, so that you can stay sane.
So you don't lose your mind.
I've of
cheering
course
for a team that
overdone it.
sucks.
I'm in like 6 fantasy leagues, and I play in all the things, and I'll do DFS sometimes. And my brother calls me, and we make a stupid bet on something, just so you stay engaged without having to require a Falcons win to have a happy week.
There you go.
That's no way to live.
I take the Marge Simpson route. I'm just glad they're all having fun.
Yeah, right.
There you go. There you go.
Those Vikings look like they're having a good time out there.
I think of my dad's voice sometimes. I hope they both lose. He would say that.
I hope they both lose. That's tough.
Not a
If it was
football
2
fan, I
teams,
take it.
I hope they both lose. All right, Dad.
It was Greek, so I'm assuming he liked soccer.
Yeah, he likes soccer. He was kind of into football. He went to FSU, and so he would root for the Seminoles when I was a kid, and he'd watch a little football here and there.
Nothing wrong with that. Well, it's always a joy to talk to you on Tuesdays. Got a lot done today. I'm a lot
Yes, sir.
happier about football than I was when you came on. So that's
Good. That's the goal. That's the goal. Yeah, just to enjoy, place a little wager on something with the Chiefs,
Sure.
just so you have a little something going on. Enjoy it.
I like it.
And I'll catch up with you guys next week.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Ladies and gentlemen, Kostaki Economopoulos on the show. Any closing words, Andy or Catherine?
Don't think
Doesn't
so.
sound like it. Doesn't sound like it.
No
All right.
fun stories this time.
We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye.
Got a picture in my noggin reminds me of this was before. And every time I hear the same reminds me how you talking my door.